Yes, I wanted to take out an entire video to talk about some of these new upcoming changes that will be happening most likely within the next couple of weeks, because these changes are actually going to be very, very impactful to how a lot of things are going to be going on with Sandbox, not only as a platform, but also just other things that I think would be more interesting to put in a separate video like this. So let's first start off with the new player model direction that they're going in, which is obviously they're going to be updating the player models for the humans so that they have now a more stylized look for these faces, both male and female, including different type of skin colors, as you can see here with the heads, as there's going to be more variety. Now, I will be completely honest. I think this is very interesting that they are changing them once more again. Even then, I've still seen people now say with some of these pictures that I've shown both on Twitter and also on YouTube with posts, I definitely understand that there is people who just specifically want the Half-Life 2 characters, which, by the way, you are able to get in the game. Currently, the way that they have it is that there is people who have been trying to upload certain models to the workshop and other stuff like that. And I know people are going to say about copyright, whatever, but there's also the Half-Life 2 community made mount, which I've made 2 videos on, and these are going to be absolutely monumental because a lot of games are probably going to see if they could most likely use these mounts, but I know you can use mounts within the editor, which is very interesting, and I don't know if you're properly able to utilize that for other games. Still, with the option being there, I think that's very interesting, and I would love for Facepunch to specify a bit more about that because, again, there is just going to be people who are going to take out the time to upload their own models to the workshop and also Half-Life 2 models because, again, you can modify the game. These new heads are going to be interesting because they're now taking a more stylized look compared to how they were before, which was hyper-realistic human player models. Now, some people like it, some people don't like it, some people prefer the other ones, and the other ones they thought were ugly too. I don't know. At this point, I'm just not even sure other than what people do want and also don't want with the characters. So there is a new published licensing wizard that will be coming to Sandbox. Now, as you can see on screen, this is the initial proof of concept, but this is a big deal. One of the biggest problems that a lot of developers, and I've seen questions about this even years before the game even came out, was how is this going to work when it comes to the workshop and also this idea of not only being able to put your games on a platform that you can get paid from, but also being able to export those specific games off of Sandbox and then put them onto Steam or itch.io or whatever other platform. Now we have this new licensing wizard that will be coming and will notify you exactly what type of assets that you have within your game that you are able to go and use depending on license, right? Most of these are color coded, so you have ones that are green, some that are blue and red, and then you can go and reference them at the left, which tells you exactly which ones are available that you can just freely use or that do require a license or some sort of attribution text. It's really nice to be able to see that we are getting this soon because, again, so many people ask me questions about this and probably have asked tons of times within the Sandbox Discord about this, so this is a huge deal. The next one we're going to talk about is benchmarking. Now, this one is something that Garry has been working on quite a bit, and he recently just added a new page, which is shown on screen right here. So this is a summary page of all the information that it tells you about how well Sandbox runs on your computer. And if you are interested in wanting to use this yourself, all you really have to do is if you go onto Sandbox, like you're in the main menu and you press the squiggly line or tilde key and you type in game space facepunch.benchmark, it will take you to that game where it will have over 35 different tests that it will run in the background. Now it's going to take around maybe 5 to 6 minutes because as you can see on screen, there is a lot that is going on that is being tested, but this is very nice because one of the biggest issues with Sandbox currently that many people have mentioned is the level of performance is absolutely abhorrent on certain PCs. And I get it. Some people are very upset that Sandbox doesn't run at the same level as it does with Garry's mod. But again, Garry's mod and what it's built on, which is Source 1, which is a very old engine, is probably not going to be the same. Yes, the game has to be optimized. I 100% agree with that. This is very nice that there is a benchmarks test that you can go and see for yourself, and you can also provide links. You can see other people's benchmarks in a way as how it ranks between you and the community. All this information is just public, which is really, really cool and incredibly helpful for Facepunches. I'm pretty sure they're probably taking most of this information into consideration. bars and trying to improve on what areas are really lacking for optimization so that they can improve on that. So that's really great. I like that this is going to be a thing. And surprisingly, this has not gone up for this week's blog post. So I think it's probably going to be next week that we'll see this. But if you want to try it out for yourself, if you do have Sandbox, go ahead. That's all you have to go and do. And you should be good to go. I already covered this yesterday, but there is a game jam that is going to be coming to Sandbox. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. This is very needed. At the moment, yes, there is developers that are working on games and that are taking out the time to create their own games. I know there was a whole bunch of games that were just released, and people who were joining in my Discord were letting me know about some other games that I have not had the chance to go and play yet, which I will be doing in a future video. Don't worry about that. There is a bunch of different games that have been coming out every single day, and I just added a whole list of them. But it feels like we really need a game jam because motivation is going to be a factor for better games down the line with this platform, and having a game jam and an incentive for people to be like, hey, I'm going to make a really good game and then be able to get paid for that. I understand. Some people feel like, Sandbox needs it right now. Okay. I'm not going to lie to you. Sandbox needs it. It needs more developers to take out the time to create cool stuff. And there is some cool things that are there, which shameless plug. There is also a recommendations page that I have made, which anyone can make, by the way, on the Sandbox website. And this collection is my recommended games, which is constantly updated with any sort of new games that I think are really worth your time playing. Definitely check it out. You don't even need to own Sandbox to see what games are recommended on here. All you have to do is just click on the link and you can see for yourself. This is very, very needed. And I'm interested to see what is going to happen since there is a whole bunch of different new flares, or excuse me, package flares, I would have to say, for each of these games. And it's just going to be important, right? Because Sandbox right now really needs some proper games, okay? I know your boy's working on one himself, but it takes time, right? It's not going to be something you see overnight. So this one is for all the cosmetic people that like cosmetics and whatnot within Sandbox. This is quite a big update because there is a new items rarity specifically for reward drops. Now, Garry has talked about this before, that he wants to go and not only be able to reward players for taking out the time to just try to play games, but he's also working on an algorithm to make sure that people do not game the system, as I know tons of you guys were already talking about how there's an issue related to bots and how that's all going, which is another thing that is going to be interesting, and how Garry is going to be dealing with bots, which is something that is an update that is coming to the platform. It seems like Garry is trying to give incentive to players that are either new or even returning players that take out the time to go and play games to earn these sort of drops depending on certain criteria. He has specified that they have a system in mind so that they can go and let players earn things depending on how much they've either played or taken out time to review things, or even achievements, whatever it is. Depending on what they decide to choose, hopefully it will be interesting to see what that might be. And it seems like there's going to be even more reward drops as of right now. Dan has provided a new slew of cosmetics that are including new t-shirts, these are game specific t-shirts. So like Sausage Survivors 2, a Fizz Gun shirt, and also the Construct t-shirt, which are available. But we have a bunch of new hats, which all of them are legendary rarity. And I think this is probably a big deal. Hedge, if you're watching this, you should probably be making a video about this right now, because this is up your alley with all of this other crazy stuff. This is a whole new thing. And I know this is something that for a lot of people who have been trying to figure this stuff out for quite a bit, most of the drops have been earnable by getting a drop once a week. This is not something that you're just going to be getting all at once. And I know that there is people who are going to try to actively game the system, which Garry and Facepunch are aware, and it seems like they're dealing with that in some sort of way. So this next one is actually very important, and I've also wanted to take out the time to talk a bit more about this because I've been very interested since I've seen people kind of say, hey, that there's games that are being botted and other things like that. So much of this discussion about bots and bots being a thing within Sandbox has been an absolute hot topic. topic. And overall, I wanted to go and take out the time to see if there was like some sort of more methods to prove that, yes, there is bots on the platform. But Garry has actually responded to this and has mentioned that he does see if certain games are botted or not. And even with some of these games that some people have mentioned, he says these games are not botted. If they were, they would be able to see that. On top of that, he has also added some new things to the website that he can keep track of, especially if there is bad actors that are taking out the time to actively bot games. And some of these include bot and suspicious flags, bot accounts don't count towards the play fund, coloring bot/suspicious names differently, etc., as you can see on the screen right here. So these specific commits are very important because, as you can see here, he is taking out the time to make sure that if there is people that are using bots or ways for them to kind of game the system, they will be verified as a bot or suspicious, and on top of that will not count towards the play fund, as he's been trying to figure this out and many other people have been also trying to figure this out as well. But it's really nice to see that, again, most of these players will not count towards play fund at all, as they will be colored as a bot, and at the same time they will not also count as online players. So that means that a lot of games that have artificially inflated numbers will not count towards those actual numbers anymore, which is really awesome. And lastly, they do not get any sort of the drops that I've mentioned earlier when it comes to reward drops. So this is great news, and something that, as Garry and many of the other members of the Face Punch team seem to be actively working on to preventing this stuff from happening, as this is a thing. So a really cool one that I would like to talk about is that there is a possibility of some more officially supported mounts that could be coming to the Sandbox mode. Now, for a lot of people that do not know, there is a mounting system in the Sandbox mode, just like Garry's mod, but this time it's not only strictly just source only games. You can kind of mount almost any game if you can get it working. And there is two different types of mounts. There is community supported mounts, which basically means like anyone could go and create a mount for a game. Some of these games could include World of Warcraft, which is one I've covered, Half-Life 2, which is another that I've also covered on this channel, and one that I've seen that was very interesting, but Vampire the Masquerade. That's a mount that someone else made, which was interesting to me because that is a thing that they can do now. That's awesome. But yes, we're going to be possibly getting some more officially supported mounts from Laylad, which has been working on some of them. These include, I think, Counter-Strike Nexon's version and some other stuff. I'm not really too sure exactly what other ones are going to be coming through, but it just seems like Laylad is working on these at the moment. So who knows? We'll see what happens with some of these officially supported mounts, as Laylad is just kind of experimenting right now. But it's very, very, very cool to see. One that I wanted to talk about is, this is a huge one because there's been so many people, and I've seen both developers and other people ask this question, which is true add-on support and ways for you to just kind of go and download things like you could, like it was in Garry's mod. Now, from what I understand is that the entire workflow of Sandbox and how it is with add-ons and mods is completely different. Basically, what is available within Sandbox is that, yes, there is a workshop. This workshop is a way for you to go and download things instantly. So you don't have to worry too much. Everything is kind of cached in a way, just available for you to go and click on, and then it just pops up, right? Which is awesome. I like the idea of that. Add-on support and mods are a current thing at the moment, which seems very confusing to most of the people. And they talked about this and showed how exactly mods and the workshop does work, as there is a workshop. It's just Face Punch didn't really do a good job at all of describing how this workshop is and how it already exists in Sandbox. So add-on support is a little bit weird because from what I've seen, and again, for any Sandbox developers that have been trying to work on this stuff, please feel free to correct me if I do get anything wrong from beyond this point talking about this topic. My understanding is Face Punch decided to go and make the Sandbox mode open source so that anyone can build on top of Sandbox. Hence, that would be one of the methods to go and create add-ons, but this is a more complicated version because you then have to build this version of the Sandbox mode from source to then figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Now, the second one, which I'm not too sure if it's the same thing, when you do open the Sandbox editor, there is an option for a Sandbox add-on template. There's also a mods template that you can select for a game, specifically whatever game it is that you're trying to target, if it's TTT or murder or whatever. What I'm trying to figure out is that there's entities, there's add-ons, and there's mods. I'm assuming all three of these are separate from what I understand, okay? That's pretty much what I'm trying to get at right now. This is the process of how it works though when it comes to add-ons, is either you have to go and build that version of the Sandbox mode, which is the open source version that you can get through the GitHub, and then modify that one through there, or the one that is the add-on support that is in the editor. It's super confusing, and I know this is the issue right now with Facepunch, which is certain things need to be described way better, and I know that with the welcome screen, as I mentioned earlier, this is a good step in the right direction for that reason, but everything else kind of feels incredibly confusing to a point where people are just going to have to start figuring this out on their own. And I've seen tons of people working on some really cool stuff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. This has been one of the most confusing things that I've possibly seen. And even for me, I've also just tried to figure out, like, what can you really do? Because I know Playermodels was like a whole thing, and someone took out the time to figure that out to make it as like an entity that you could spawn in and other stuff. A lot of people are trying to figure out ways to modify the Sandbox mode to really kind of spruce it up, because as of right now, Facepunch's version is lacking, and it's understandable as other third-party versions of the Sandbox mode, or different forks, I would have to say, of that are way better either in features or even options and tools for you to use. And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. Is there is one Sandbox mode that I think has been very interesting, and I wanted to provide some more info because I have played it before, but obviously it was broken at one time, and it seems like some of the developers are actively working on trying to update this and see what they can do with that. And that is Sandbox Plus. I will have to say, in my opinion, this could be the one game that could be seen as like a Garry's Mod 2. I use that in very light quotes because at this point, I understand that people do want this. At the same time, there has been other different ways that people have been trying to create their own versions of this, and I think Sandbox Plus might be the closest version that I've seen by far. There has been a person on the team that's been active with trying to update a couple of different things, and I think they're creating something called Space Build. Now, I've never taken out the time to do anything with Space Build, so for anyone that's an OG GMod player that's messing around with Space Build, please feel free to inform me. I was just a Sandbox mode kid at the time, and sometimes I would play like Death Run and other things. I don't know anything about no Space Build, so please inform me about that because I'm out of the loop for that. This is something that Lieutenant Brandon has been working on, and I know I've seen a couple of videos, but I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this is literally in Sandbox. Okay, this could be like technically the GMod 2 that people are looking for, because again, you could just put a Half-Life 2 mod, which is again available, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a fork of that game mode, which can support mounts. So this is going to be very interesting. I have talked with Nebula, which also is a person who worked on Wirebox, which is also a part of Sandbox Plus, and that's really awesome. But I did take out the time to talk with him, and they're just kind of seeing what's going on at the moment with the space of development on Facepunch's end with the Sandbox mode. So yeah, I think that's everything that I've covered within this video that I wanted to talk about. Some of this stuff is very exciting news to hear, and some of it is just kind of like, this is much needed. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. There is quite a bit of stuff that's happening within the Sandbox community. I love to hear your thoughts, both good, bad, whatever it is, like, dislike, all that other good stuff. Subscribe to the channel for more updates and news by your boy. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video where I am testing out some more new games that people have recommended to me, which should be a fun time. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you then in the next video.